name's Paul Locke and I've been taking photographs now for about 30 years. Over the years, a lot of people have said to me, Paul, what's the best kind of camera that I can get? And that's a very difficult question to ask. It's a bit like saying to somebody, what's the best car that I can get? It very much depends on what you want to do with it. A Ferrari would be a brilliant car to own. It looks beautiful, it goes very fast, but it's not terribly practical when you need to pick the kids up from school or when you need to do a load of shopping. So just like buying a car, buying a camera comes down to two fundamental things. The first thing is, what do you want to do with it? So think about what kind of photographs you want to take. Do you want to take pictures of parties and friends? Do you want to take pictures of your pets? Do you want to take it on holiday? Are you going on a safari and you want to take some amazing pictures of wildlife? Do you want to take it to a motorsport event and take pictures of fast cars? Those are the sort of things you need to think about. Do you want to do it as a growing hobby and maybe try and turn it into a bit of a business? Do you see yourself as being the next David Bailey? These are all important factors to think about before you go ahead and choose a camera. The other important thing is budget. How much do you want to spend on the camera? How much can you afford? It's not just the cost of the camera itself. With many cameras now, once you've got the camera, you need to think about buying a memory card, you may need a spare battery, you probably want a case to put it in, and if you go for a larger camera you may want to buy additional lenses going forward, and all these costs can quickly add up to more than the cost of the camera in the first place. So it's important to think about all those things before you go ahead and actually make a purchase. So, there are four main types of camera that you can think about. The first type is one of these, a smartphone. So most people have got one of these in their pockets today, and inside all of these is a fairly reasonable camera. The first camera phones that came out were not terribly good. You wouldn't particularly want to take a picture and share that with anybody. It was okay to look at yourself, but you wouldn't want to take a print and put it on your wall. These days, these have come a long way, and the quality of the cameras that's in these today is similar to the quality that you would have paid for a dedicated camera a few years ago and quite happily paid a couple of £100 for. So these things they're always with you. So if you see an opportunity for a photo, you don't have to think about whether or not you're going to take the camera with you. You've generally always got it with you, as long as your battery is charged up. And you can catch that photo and keep it forever and get a reasonably good quality image out of it. The number of times I've seen a brilliant photo opportunity and not had a camera. These may not be the best cameras in the world, but they'll take a better picture than a camera that's sat at home in a cupboard with the battery flat and the thing turned off. So don't discount using a smartphone. You can take some reasonably good pictures with one of these. That said, it does have its limitations. The main limitation being around this thing here, the lens. So the lens is the most important part of a camera. It's the thing that allows it to see and to see the image that you're trying to take the picture of. So it's really important that that lens on there is a really, really good lens. A lot of people get fixated with megapixels. How many megapixels has the camera got? I need to get the latest and greatest with more megapixels. Actually, that's not as important as the quality of the lens on the front. A camera with 4 or 5 megapixels and a really good lens is always going to take a better picture than a camera with 20 or 30 megapixels and a really, really bad lens. So, these are okay, but that lens on there is always going to be a limitation for you. If you compare that to the lens that's on this camera, this is my SLR camera, and there's a telephoto lens on there. That lens is doing the same job as the lens on this smartphone, and okay, this is to do a slightly different job. This is a telephoto lens, but equally, it's a lens that's trying to do the same job as the lens on this smartphone. There's a lot more lens there. You're going to get a lot more quality out of a lens like that than you will from a lens like this. But as I say, given its limitations, these are fine for taking some photos. And what I'd say to people is, before you go and buy a camera, if you've got one of these, use this to start with, push the limits of this, see what it can do. And only think about buying another camera if you realise that your smartphone can't do the things that you want to do and can't give you the kind of results that you want to get. If you're going to Africa on safari and you see a lion run out in front of you, a once in a lifetime opportunity, if you've only got one of these to take that picture, you're not going to get a kind of result that you'll be happy with. So that's the smartphone. The next kind of camera that I want to talk about is this, the compact digital camera. So these have been around for quite a few years, the most common type of digital camera now. These range in price from about £50 and go up to several £100 depending on make and features and what sort of size and quality you want. What I would say is that the compact cameras that are around about the sort of £40–50 mark are okay, but you're probably not going to get much different results from those than you would do from the camera that's on your smartphone, especially if it's a fairly recent generation smartphone. So my advice would be, if you're thinking about a compact camera, you want to be looking at something at around about the £100 range. For that, that's going to give you a good make. So someone like a Nikon, a Canon, a Panasonic like this one, Sony, these are all good makes. They all give you good cameras with lots and lots of features, and they'll be pretty reliable. I'd steer away from the makes that you've heard less of. There's a reason for that, because they're generally not very good. And given that this is something that's going to take important pictures for you that you might want to keep as memories for a long time, it's worth investing a little bit of money in something decent. So this has a few important differences to the camera on your smartphone. The first thing is the lens. So you can see the lens on here that's the lens there. The lens on this is much bigger than the lens on the smartphone. So straight away there's more lens there to take the picture, so that's going to help give you a better quality result. This does have a higher resolution as well than the smartphone, so this I think is a 15 megapixel camera, so pretty high resolution combined with a good lens. The lens will do a range of telephoto and wide angle as well, so you can get wide angle shots for landscape type pictures, telephoto shots when you're a long way from something. Again, smartphones don't tend to offer that same range of flexibility. The other thing these cameras have is more control as well, so you'll get controls that allow you to cope with different situations. So taking pictures at night, bright days, things that are moving fast if you want to do macro. Some smartphones do offer these features, but there's no buttons on a smartphone, it's all screen driven with a touchscreen, and that can be quite difficult for someone like me with thick fingers. It's quite difficult to use those sometimes. These cameras tend to have buttons on, and again some have smaller buttons than others, some have touchscreens on the back, so it's really horses for courses. But you will get noticeably better results using a camera like this than you will with a smartphone, because it's got a better lens, it's got a better sensor, so more megapixels, but also it's got more features and more control to allow you to do things. One thing that's really important is to do your research. So if you want to buy a camera, it's really important that you make sure that it's something that meets the requirements that you've got. There are lots of reviews out there, so loads and loads of videos like this on YouTube, on pretty much every camera on the market, that will tell you the pros and cons of all of these things and show you photographs from every single possible angle. There are also lots of reports from magazines and newspapers telling you what the best features and the worst features of these things are, and giving you a comparison between all the different cameras on the market. So these days there's no excuse for not doing your research and making sure you're buying something which is exactly what you want it to be. The other thing that I would advise, if you can, is to go to a shop. The internet has killed off a lot of shops these days, so it's not as easy as it used to be, but there are still camera shops around, dedicated camera shops or camera sections in department stores. And if they are there, it's really worth searching them out. It's really important with something like this that if you can do, you get to touch and hold it before you buy it. You'd never buy a car just by looking at photographs on the internet, and equally my advice would be, don't buy one of these like that as well. Some of these cameras can be really poorly put together with cheap plastics or really fiddly buttons, and it's not going to help when you pick it up and want to use it if it's really tricky to use all the time, or it's complicated to use and you can't remember the settings. So my advice would be, if you can, go to a shop, pick some up, have a play and choose one that's right for you. Shops can be more expensive, that's true, but equally if you're looking to buy a camera and the shopkeeper's looking to make a sale, there's generally a deal there to be done. So be honest with them and say, look, I want to buy a camera but your prices are higher than on the internet, what can you do? And generally there's an opportunity there to bring the price difference down a little bit. So compact cameras, the pluses for these, you're going to get better quality than you will do with a smartphone. They are relatively light and easy to carry around. A bit more expensive than nothing, because the smartphone you've already got in your pocket. But again, they're not going to break the bank, they're not going to cost a fortune, and you're going to get pretty good results out of those. You're going to get better results than a smartphone. I'd say you're going to get good quality photos from this. You're not going to get the best quality though, so these are good to a point. But if you want pictures that are are going to be absolutely perfect, or you're going to get guaranteed photos in particular situations, then these probably aren't the cameras for you. You're not going to be able to expand them. So the lens that's there is the lens. You can't change the lens. The flash is the flash. If it's not powerful enough for you, or you're not going to be able to fit another flash on there. So these things are fine, but they are what they are when you buy them. You're not really going to able to make any adjustments to the features on there. The next kind of camera I'm going to talk to you about is one of these. This is called an SLR. Stands for single lens reflex, but I'm not going to bore you with why it's called a single lens reflex because we'd be here all day. So an SLR camera, as you can see, a lot bigger, a lot heavier than a compact camera. These can, as with compacts, range dramatically in cost. So entry-level SLR cameras start at about £300, but top-end professional cameras can go into several thousands of pounds. Why is that? Well, if you see on TV photographers at media events, at sporting events, outside of press conferences and like that, you will see lots and lots of people with cameras like this, with big lenses on the front and flashes on top. Why? Well, because they're very, very good, clever cameras. If you're in a situation where it's critical that you capture the picture that you want, and where making a mistake or a blurred image is just not possible, you've got to be able to have a camera in your hands that's going to deliver you that job. If you're taking photographs of the president arriving in the country, or someone's wedding photographs, a whole bunch of blurred or not very good looking photographs, you're never going to get the opportunity to do that again. So these kind of cameras, they don't guarantee it, but they give you a lot better chance of getting the perfect shot that you want. How do they differ to compact cameras? Well, as you can see, they are bigger than compact cameras. They are certainly heavier than compact cameras. The main difference is these things. So you can see the lens on this is a lot smaller than the lens that's on the compact camera, or certainly on the smartphone. So it's a bigger lens, so it's a better lens. It's going to give you far more detail than you would otherwise have got. These have got high resolution as well, so SLRs these days start at around about 18 megapixels. The most resolution you can get goes into the sort of mid 30 millions of pixels. This one I think is about 22 megapixels. Combine that with a good lens on the front and you're going to get some really good quality pictures out of this. You can take the lens off, you can swap it with another lens. So this is a smaller lens, a more general lens for doing everyday bits and pieces. But if you're out and you want to take shots of things that are a long way away, you can put one of these telephoto lenses onto here and get very, very close to the subject. So huge amounts of flexibility. You've also got more control over the flash. So with compact cameras and smartphones, the flash is built in, not hugely powerful. With these, you can put a flash gun on top, get much more powerful flash, but you can also direct the flash around and get loads and loads of different effects. You can operate the camera separately to the flash if you want to, with remote controls and all sorts of clever things that you can't do with smaller cameras, all of which give you far better control and far more creativity. Talking of controls, there's a lot more controls on the top and on the back here, so you can pretty much change any feature and any function on the camera, shutter speed, exposure, focus, all sorts of things, again to be able to cope with any situation, to be able to help you get that picture that you need. The other difference here is this thing, the viewfinder. So what the viewfinder allows you to do is to actually see all the way through the lens and see the picture that you're going to take. So you can look through here, it closes off everything else around you, so you focus purely on the picture and actually focus, and gives you a much better ability to concentrate on getting the picture that you're after and think about it. If you used to using screens on the back like this on compact cameras and smartphones, they're okay, but you have to sort of frame things up. If it's a bright day and the sun is shining on the back, it can be very difficult to see what you're framing at. And when you're taking the picture, equally, it can be very difficult to see whether you've got the picture that you wanted. So with these, what you see is what you get. You look through the viewfinder, you know that if it's in there when you're taking the picture, you've got the shot that you want. And again, like on compact cameras and smartphones, you can review photographs on a screen like this and make sure that you've got the picture that you wanted before you finish. So, pros for these cameras: hugely capable, very, very flexible. They can be a sort of a jack of all trades camera for any kind of environment, any kind of picture that you want to take. Hugely flexible things. The downside, as I say, is they are heavy, chunky things, and that's not going to change. So when I said earlier about thinking about your requirements before you go ahead and make a purchase, it's really important that if you're thinking about getting something like this, you are going to be the kind of person that's going to want to use it. You're not going to slip that into your pocket or into your handbag when you're popping out for the evening. That's something that you need to make a conscious decision to take with you, and it's a lump of camera to take. You need to be comfortable that you're going to be prepared to do that when you want to do it. You're not going to take it with you every time you want to take a picture, but when you do want to take a really, really good picture, you need to be happy that you're going to be carrying something sizable around with you. But when you're in Africa and you see that lion charging across the Masai Mara and you want to get that perfect once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, you're really going to have a better opportunity to get it if you've got one of those in your hand than if you've got one of those in your hand. So this does have loads of benefits. Comes at a price in terms of weight and obviously money. So that's the SLR. The fourth type of camera that I wanted to talk about is the compact system camera. I don't have one of those, so I can't show that to you, but I'll put a photo on this video so you can see what I'm talking about. Compact system cameras came about because manufacturers said, well, there's a group of people out there that want small light cameras they can carry around. They don't all want huge, heavy SLRs, but they want the quality and the flexibility that an SLR gives you. So basically, a compact system camera is a camera with a small body, so similar sort of size to the compact system, but it allows you to put on a separate lens, so you can attach the lens to the body, change those lenses around, so you can attach a wide angle lens or a telephoto lens, so it gives you a lot of the range of flexibility that an SLR would give you. They also have a lot more capability in terms of the resolution, so they tend to have higher resolution capability, and also more features as well. So a lot of the features that SLRs have around coping with different situations, a lot of these compact system cameras have. So lots of pros. Obviously they're a middle ground between a compact camera and an SLR camera, so they are smaller. So some of the downsides are that they are smaller and fiddlier to use. So again, like me, if you're somebody with fairly thick fingers and you need buttons to press, and you want something that's straightforward and reliable to flick buttons on and off, then maybe a compact camera might not be for you. But if you're happy with that and you're used to using a smartphone all the time, and small screens and small buttons don't worry you, then they're fine for that. They are also relatively expensive, certainly compared to compact cameras. A good compact system camera will cost you around about the same amount of money that an SLR camera would, so they're certainly not cheap, but again, they're giving you an uplift in performance compared to a compact camera, and the kind of quality of pictures that you're going to get from a compact system camera are in the same range as you're going to get from the sort of low to middle range SLR camera, so they're certainly there in terms of picture quality. But again, as I said earlier, it's really important that if you're thinking about buying one of those cameras, or an SLR or a compact camera, that you get out into a shop and you try them. You can look at as many pictures as you want to, or as many videos as you want to, but when you pick these things up, just like buying a car, you wouldn't buy a car just by looking at poses on the internet. You want to go out there and try them, and actually when you pick them up, you may find that the SLR is just too big and heavy for you. You may find that the compact system camera or the compact camera is perfect, or you may find that again it's a bit too small and fiddly for you. You may find that something that looks okay, by the time you've taken one of these cameras and you put a telephoto lens on the end of it, you're never going to want to use that, so that's a non-starter straight away. So really, really important that you do your homework and get out there and choose the cameras for you, and don't be one of these people that spends a fortune on a camera and then ends up putting it on eBay, having used it once or twice, and ends up losing a fortune. So that's the video. I hope that's been useful. I hope you enjoy your search for a camera and you find one that's perfect for you, and you have many happy years of taking photographs with it. Thanks a lot.